India Live, I am Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India positions itself as an attractive destination for US and UK investors. The country's commerce and external affairs ministers showcase the success of Make in India. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak holds his first cabinet meeting after reshuffle. David Cameron attends the meet on day one as Foreign Secretary. And the White House says US and Chinese presidents will seek to strengthen communication and manage competition when they meet in San Francisco. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has held his first cabinet meeting after the reshuffle. Newly appointed Foreign Secretary David Cameron and Home Secretary James Cleverly attended the meeting, among others. Sunak had reshuffled his cabinet after the sacking of Home Secretary Suella Braverman. Former Foreign Secretary James Cleverly was appointed Home Secretary, while former British Prime Minister David Cameron was appointed Foreign Secretary.
Our purpose is nothing less than to make the long-term decisions that are going to change our country for the better, and I know that this strong and united team is going to deliver that change for everybody. We've got an important week coming up. On Wednesday we'll have inflation numbers, we'll also have the Supreme Court ruling on our Rwanda plan, and next Wednesday the Chancellor will be delivering an important autumn statement, and that is what this team is going to do, whether it's navigating the crises in Ukraine and the Middle East to demonstrate that we will stand up for our values and provide security for everyone here at home, but also to make the big, bold decisions that will drive change.
All right, my colleague Ollie Barrett joins us from London. Ollie, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has chaired the maiden meeting of his new cabinet, introduces his new look team. He says it's ready to deliver changes. Do you think the reshuffle will help the Sunak government to redeem itself?
Well, it's interesting to hear the Prime Minister using that word change again while sitting in front of his new cabinet, because although while it is a new cabinet and there are some new faces at the table, the face that's grabbed all the headlines, of course, is the former UK Prime Minister David Cameron. And that's led to quite a lot of criticism of Rishi Sunak's attempts to present himself as an agent of change while bringing back an old face from British politics who's been Prime Minister himself before, who's led the Conservative Party, and trying to claim that you are the party of change. So that is just one to watch as one of the potential difficulties for Rishi Sunak in the weeks ahead, trying to present himself as someone who can bring change heading into the next general election while bringing a former Prime Minister back round the cabinet table. What he is clearly trying to achieve partly is to present his government as taking the centre ground of British politics again ahead of the upcoming general election, trying to show that the party is moderate enough to win electorate votes in the centre ground of British politics. That's part of the reason that David Cameron has been brought back, alongside his experience that he can bring to the foreign affairs brief as well. But there's plenty of criticism around for Rishi Sunak of the cabinet that he's put together. He will feel that he has now got a team that is ready to fight an election whenever that is going to end up being.
Ollie, what can you tell us about David Cameron, the man, and his politics? Will he change or tweak London's foreign policy priorities?
Well, when it comes to foreign policy, you have to expect that David Cameron will really lead to a continuity from his predecessors in the Foreign Office, particularly with regards to the UK government stance on the Middle East, particularly with regards to the conflict in Ukraine. One area that will be fascinating to watch is UK policy towards and its stance towards China, because when former UK Prime Minister David Cameron was in number 10, his Downing Street was trying to forge closer ties with Beijing, but things have changed since then significantly. A lot of Conservative MPs are very worried, therefore, about whether David Cameron might try and change the current UK government stance towards China, but you have to also expect that he will be taking his direction from the Prime Minister. So continuity is probably what we're going to see in terms of foreign policy. When you look at David Cameron, the man, he was often criticised by political opponents when he was Prime Minister for a period of so-called austerity after the global financial crisis. That is something that political opponents will continue to attack him for, and the government that he now represents. It's often been said that David Cameron has not really found his calling after Downing Street, has not really found a role for himself into which he felt that he could fit and offer anything sensible and useful to the wider world. Public service, he's always stated, is something that he is very committed to. And again, we've heard that from him since returning to this role, and his allies, who say that that is what this is about for him, is serving the UK government at a difficult time geopolitically. But again, lots of critics of Rishi Sunak's move to bring David Cameron back in for a lot of reasons. But there are also quite a lot of Conservatives who feel that this is a move that could help the party, which trails behind the opposition Labour Party by some distance in the polls.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Ollie, thank you. That was my colleague Ollie Barrett reporting from London. India's Minister for External Affairs, Subramaniam Jaishankar, met with the newly appointed UK Home Secretary James Cleverly in London on Monday. Jaishankar appreciated Cleverly's unwavering support, underscoring the continued strength of the strategic partnership between India and the UK. The two leaders discussed about the importance of mobility, skills and talent in the development of the India-UK ties. They also exchanged views on addressing shared concerns on extremism, economic offences, trafficking and security. Minister Jaishankar also met with UK Defence Secretary Grant Shapps and discussed about bolstering defence and security cooperation between the two countries. Jaishankar highlighted the promising avenues for collaboration through the Make in India initiative, offering new opportunities for British partners. The leaders exchanged perspectives on pressing global security challenges, emphasizing the convergences in their strategic approaches. Minister Jaishankar also addressed the Indian community at a Diwali reception in London. He hailed the community for making a powerful contribution to the India-UK relations. Minister Jaishankar said that a new India is coming into being and that a transformation is underway in the country.
I began by saying the world has changed, our relationship has changed, UK has changed, India has changed. So you may ask me, what has changed in India? You know the answer. The answer is Modi. Initiatives like Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, initiatives about building toilets for girls, about the Jan Dhan Yojana, the financial inclusion, about building houses, the Awas Yojana. When you see the cumulative impact of all of this on the lives of people, that is the change which is underway in India.
The White House has announced that President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping will discuss improving communication and addressing competition at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit this week. The meeting in San Francisco Bay Area on Wednesday will be the first face-to-face meeting between Biden and Xi in a year. The agenda of the meeting is to reduce tensions between the two countries. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal held bilateral talks on the sidelines of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework meeting in the U.S. city of San Francisco. Goyal met with the U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai. He also met with South Korea's Trade Minister. Taking to X, Goyal said that they explored ways to enhance cooperation across diverse sectors, along with reviewing the upgradation progress of the India-South Korea Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Goyal, who is on a visit to the US from 13th to 16th November, has been invited to attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco. Minister Goyal attended the Investors Roundtable hosted by the Consulate General of India in San Francisco. He said that India is an attractive investment destination for the world. He said India offers promising opportunities for investors because of a unique combination of demographic dividend, manufacturing capability, and a conducive business environment. Minister Goyal met with Singapore's Minister for Trade and Industry, Gan Kim Yong, on the margins of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework meeting in San Francisco. The two sides look to advance trade and commerce. They emphasize ways of enhancing cooperation between India and Singapore in the emerging and futuristic areas alike. US electric car maker Tesla is on its way to double imports of components from India. Indian Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal visited Tesla's manufacturing facility at Fremont, California on Tuesday. He noted the contribution of Indian engineers and finance professionals to Tesla's quest for revolutionizing mobility. The Israeli army on Monday released a video that allegedly shows that the Hamas uses hospitals for hiding and storing weapons in Gaza. Take a look.
It's over a month of Israel-Hamas conflict and still no end in sight. On Monday, Israeli army released video that it claims shows the Rantisi hospital in Gaza. It was reportedly used to hold hostages.
You're now entering into the room where we suspect the hostages were being held. I want you to look at this room. People are putting curtains with nothing above, just wall. No reason to put here a curtain unless you want to film hostages and deliver movies.
According to the Israeli army, a basement facility at the Rantisi hospital had weapons as well as a motorbike reportedly used to transport hostages.
Underneath the hospital, in the basement, we found a Hamas command and control center, suicide bomb vests, grenades, AK-47 assault rifles, explosives devices, RPGs and other weapons.
Israeli military is also working on providing incubators for the evacuation of newborn babies from the conflict area. Whereas the armed wing of Hamas is ready to release up to 70 women and children held in Gaza in return for a 5-day truce. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met commanders and soldiers of the Caracal Battalion at one of the assembly points near the Gaza Strip fence.
This says a lot. This is also what we are doing now with the forces that are inside. This is neither an operation nor a round, but a war to the end. It is important to me that you know this. This is not lip service, but from the heart and mind. If we do not finish them, it will come back.
The US says that the White House is working to ensure safe passage of citizens.
We do have information, and I'll be careful about how I characterize that, about some of the hostages and a notion that there are a substantial number of hostages who are not just alive, but who could potentially be part of a hostage release. But I couldn't give you a number of exactly how many Americans would be included in that. That's something that we will have to work through as we continue these negotiations. And of course, we won't know for certain until we actually get the release of those hostages and they're safely returned to their families. So that's something we're going to continue to work on.
In response to attacks on northern Israel over the past few days, fighter jets struck Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure in Lebanon. Conflict has claimed over 12,600 lives on both Palestinian and Israeli sides.
Brazil's President Lula da Silva welcomed 32 of his country's nationals who were rescued from Gaza following a month of negotiations. He greeted them with hugs and kisses. Their flight was the 10th in Brazil's operation to bring back its citizens from Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip following the recent war in the region. A group of Russian nationals evacuated from Gaza have landed in Moscow, this according to Russia's Emergencies Ministry. While the ministry did not mention the number of Russian citizens expected to leave Gaza, media reports said that some 1,000 Russians and nationals from the republics of the former Soviet Union have expressed a wish to leave Gaza. The U.S. top court has adopted its first code of ethics after media reports earlier this year revealed that justices accepting lavish vacations and gifts paid for by rich benefactors who often had strong political, social and religious beliefs. Tori Waterman has more.
Statement released alongside this new code of conduct, the justices said that the rules are in fact not new at all, that the principles have always governed the court's conduct. Included in the code are 5 canons of conduct requiring justices to refrain from political activity and to uphold the independence of the judiciary, which includes not allowing family, social, political, financial, or other relationships to influence official conduct or judgment. But the justices failed to explain how exactly the code will work or who will enforce it. Now, it may be hard to believe, but the U.S. Supreme Court has never had to adhere to a code of ethics, even though just about every other judge in the United States does. Instead, the Constitution says Supreme Court justices can serve as long as they exhibit good behavior. But what constitutes good behavior has been thrown into question after a series of media reports raised concerns about the influence inside America's highest court. ProPublica reported that conservative Justice Clarence Thomas never disclosed lavish vacations and tuition paid for by a Republican mega donor. Justice Samuel Alito never disclosed a paid-for luxury trip to Alaska with another conservative donor, while the Associated Press alleges that liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor's staff prodded public institutions to buy her books, works that have earned her millions of dollars. The reports, alongside controversial rulings in the past few years, including the overturning of abortion rights in the U.S., have tarnished the court's reputation. And a recent Gallup poll found that public trust and approval in the court is near record lows. In Austin, Tony Waterman reporting for DD India.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen rejected Moody's outlook on U.S. debt, saying that the country's economy is strong. The ratings agency on Friday lowered its outlook on the U.S. credit rating to negative from stable, citing large fiscal deficits.
Let me start with the Moody's decision. They maintained the U.S. AAA rating, but indicated that there's a negative outlook. This is a decision that I disagree with. The American economy is fundamentally strong, and Treasury securities remain the world's preeminent safe and liquid asset. We have enjoyed over the past several years an historically fast economic recovery from a deep recession.
The United Nations Command has vowed a response in case of an armed attack on the Korean Peninsula. Defense ministers and representatives of the UNC, which comprises 17 countries, are currently meeting in South Korea. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that the UNC is concerned that China and Russia are helping North Korea expand its military capabilities. The UNC is a group of countries, including the US, the UK, Australia and Turkey, which sent troops or medical support during the 1950 to 1953 war between North and South Korea. Established in 1950, the UNC was mandated to enforce the armistice while acting as a communication channel with Pyongyang. Take a look now at some more stories making news around the world. Foxconn founder Terry Gou has qualified to run for Taiwan's presidential election. The founder of major Apple supplier Foxconn qualified after he collected enough signatures to run as an independent candidate for president. The billionaire announced his bid in August this year, saying he wanted to unite the opposition and ensure the island did not become the next Ukraine. Firefighters have evacuated stranded residents in Aosta after rivers burst their banks following torrential overnight rains in the central Italian region of Tuscany on Friday. Now, 6 people have been killed and around 190 people have been forced to evacuate their homes. The Italian government has declared a state of emergency and allocated an initial $5.4 million to help the worst hit areas. The French government and utility EDF have reached a deal on future nuclear power prices in a compromise they said would allow EDF to be profitable while shielding consumers from sharp rises in bills. The two sides have agreed on €70 per megawatt hour as a reference level for nuclear power prices. A 500-year-old hand prosthesis has been discovered in southern Germany during construction. In the Bavarian town of Freising, which is close to Munich, an iron prosthetic skeleton from the Middle Ages has been discovered. The skeleton belonged to a man between the age of 30 and 50, according to radiocarbon dating. He died sometime between 1450 and 1620. And still to come on DD India Live. India's retail inflation falls to a 4-month low in October because of a further drop in food prices. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses a rally in the poll-bound state of Madhya Pradesh.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such change makers.
Watch Change Makers on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. The 42nd edition of India International Trade Fair kicked off in New Delhi on Tuesday. Indian Minister of State for Commerce and Industry Anupriya Patel and Som Prakash inaugurated it. More than 3,000 exhibitors from India and abroad are participating in the fair. The trade fair offers a wide spectrum of business, social, cultural and educational dimensions that have been weaved together. Besides exhibitors from across India, 13 countries are participating, including Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Oman, Egypt, Nepal, Thailand, Turkey and Vietnam. The mega event will conclude on 27th November. And my colleague Shubhendu Ghosh joins us. Shubhendu, tell us a bit more about the trade fair, if you will. What's been the response from the exhibitors to begin with?
Right, Ramesh, when we talk about more than 3,000 exhibitors from India and across the world, all having gathered here at India International Trade Fair, the sheer diversity of products and goods on offer is absolutely mind-boggling. From the dry fruits of Afghanistan to the intricate glass work from Istanbul, Turkey, to advanced steel to make rocket engines and jet planes. All of it is here on display. Trade fair, we understand, is a B2C, which is business to customer, directly selling to the customer, and B2B, business to business, where different businesses gather, engage, and do business with one another. So this is turning out to be a melting pot of not just cultures, but also commerce here in Delhi, Ramesh, and the countries that you mentioned, the 13 countries who are participating. There are also all the states who are being represented here at the trade fair. And the India story is also in focus.
Right.
So you'll have special exhibitions of India's health reforms like Ayushman Bharat, a bullet train which is taking shape between Gujarat and Maharashtra. All those stories and more on display at the trade fair.
Indeed, and very quickly, Shubhendu, now we've spoken about business, the business side of the fair, the exhibitors. Let's talk a bit now, if you will, about consumers or customers. What's on offer for the public at large? What should they expect to experience over the next fortnight?
Right. It is a great diversity of products, from handlooms to artifacts to decorative items to made in India, nature-friendly products. Those are a clear highlight at the trade fair as we speak. Great variety for the customers to pick up from. The first 4 to 5 days are going to be designated for business trade, but after that this pavilion will be open to public from 10 in the morning to 7:30 in the evening. Tickets are easily available. A great diversity of products, not just from different states of the country of India, but also of different countries. So for them, this is one-stop center from where they can buy things from across the world at great bargains. So in that matter, it's a great opportunity for shoppers in Delhi.
Right, Shubhendu, thank you for your input. Appreciate it. Moving on, India's retail inflation declined to a 4-month low of 4.87% in October because of a further drop in food prices. Now, this is the second consecutive month when the consumer price index-based inflation has remained below 6%. The inflation based on the consumer price index was 5.02% in September and 6.83% in August 2023. Some deceleration was seen in the prices of non-food items. The cost of services, clothing, footwear and fuel have also gone down. The prices of LPG cylinder dropped 0.4% from last October's level. A little relief in inflation rates for cereals, milk, spices also helped in reducing the retail inflation. Campaigning for the assembly election is in full swing in the Indian states of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan and Telangana. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a rally in Madhya Pradesh. Speaking in Betul, Modi said that India is now the second largest mobile manufacturer in the world. Take a listen. India celebrates Tribal Pride Day on the 15th of November every year. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Jharkhand's capital Ranchi and the museum that celebrates the life of the great tribal leader Birsa Munda and the tribal freedom fighters of India.
15th of November is celebrated as the National Tribal Pride Day. This day also marks the birth anniversary of the tallest tribal leader Birsa Munda. This year, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting Jharkhand, his birthplace, to pay tribute to the great man. It was in Ranchi where Birsa Munda laid down his life fighting against British and for the tribal rights and freedom of India. This jail, which functioned till 2010, is now converted into a museum. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit the museum on 15th of November and pay floral tributes to Bhagwan Birsa Munda. The museum also showcases the life and history of the tribal leader, his journey from his younger days to his freedom struggle. Not just this, the museum also depicts the tribal culture and their way of life for people from across the country to come and witness the life and history of tribal India.
जनजातीय शहीद संग्रहालय ही है, लेकिन अब आदिवासियत को हम व्याख्यायित करेंगे तो पूरे आदिवासी जीवन को हमने दिखाने की कोशिश की है। उनके पूरा जन्म से लेके नामकरण से लेके और अंतिम संस्कार की बातें भी वहां कही गई हैं। आप घूम के देखेंगे तो उनके सारे कर्मा, सरहुल, सोहराय सब पर्व त्योहार के बारे में वहां बताया गया है।
The prison also preserved the barrack number 4, where Birsa Munda was imprisoned and eventually laid down his life inside the same room. The barrack number 4 has also been converted into resting place for Birsa Munda.
On 15th of November every year, India celebrates the National Tribal Pride Day, a day where tribal leaders are paid respect throughout the country. This year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting Ranchi and will also visit this very same museum where Birsa Munda, a tall tribal leader who is also regarded as one of the tallest of all the tribal leaders in India, has sacrificed his life here fighting the British. From Ranchi, this is Dibyendu Model for DD India.
The second edition of Global Media Congress began in the UAE capital Abu Dhabi on Tuesday. Its theme this year is Shaping the Future of the Media Industry. The Global Media Congress features a specialized conference with dedicated sessions related to media industry. On day one of the Congress, panel discussions focused on climate action and the role of media in supporting the goals of COP28, which will take place in the UAE. The country's Minister of State for Tolerance and Coexistence, Sheikh Nahyan bin Mubarak Al Nahyan, delivered the inaugural speech. The minister said that as the media industry is changing rapidly, we must agree that the most important thing in media is the content created and not the technology used. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.